Things are in a mess in the Bakhmut region, where Putin has mobilized everything to achieve. The soldiers who started a riot at the Russian headquarters in Bakhmut refused to fight on Ukrainian territory and lay down weapons. The Russian general Nikolai Gumilyov, whom Russian leader Vladimir Putin sent to restore dominance in the headquarters and suppress the rebellion, was ambushed by soldiers. The critical information that the captured Russian general admitted during interrogation caused Vladimir Putin to lose billions of dollars. The Ukrainian army, which has learned the location of the warplanes of the Russian army on the territory of Ukraine, has signed an incredible operation. Very interesting developments continue to take place in the Russian-Ukrainian war, which has been going on without interruption for 18 months. The Ukrainian army, which had achieved a great deal of strength with the arrival of aid and support shipments to the Ukrainian army, had no more strength to withstand the Russian army, which began to suffer from increased attacks and operations against Russian soldiers stationed in the region. Russian soldiers who constantly ask for help to support shipments to the Kremlin continue to face a very difficult situation when they do not get any results at all. In addition, the increasing casualties in the war zone day by day made Wagner leader Prigozhin very angry. Things had become very complicated when Prigozhin, who complained that the Russian government was not managing the war well, received a harsh reaction and intervention from the Russian general staff. Prigozhin Wagner, who decided to completely withdraw from the region, withdrew from the Ukrainian war zone with his troops and attempted a coup within Russia. Meanwhile, Russian soldiers faced a much more difficult situation due to Wagner, soldiers withdrawing from the war zone. The patience of the Russian soldiers, who were forced to retreat from the occupied town of Andriivka due to the operations that the Ukrainian army has been organizing for 2 weeks, has run out. Complaining of a lack of weapons and ammunition, the Russian soldiers retreated to the Russian headquarters in the town of Odradivka when they could not maintain control in the Andriivka region. The psychological conditions of the soldiers who lost their comrades in arms as a result of the Ukrainian army's attacks and successive offensives while retreating towards the headquarters continue to worsen day by day. While the Russian soldiers wanted to inform the Kremlin of this distressing situation in Bakhmut, the commander's pressure on this situation caused tense minutes at headquarters. All balances changed when Russian soldiers, who stated that Russian leader Vladimir Putin does not value Russian soldiers fighting on Ukrainian territory and that they have been lacking weapons and ammunition for months, refused to go to the front, stating that even their basic needs were not met, and decrees to lay down arms by grouping together. Soldiers who complain that the sent ammunition is not enough for the army are falling out of power due to the inability to provide first aid and basic needs, causing them to lose their dominance in the region. Russian soldiers, who were very angry because they could not respond to the Ukrainian army's attacks and began to create unrest inside the headquarters, started a big riot as a result of affecting other soldiers stationed at the headquarters. With the beginning of the rebellion, he sent General Nikolai Gumilyov, who was experienced and had served in the Russian army for many years, to the headquarters in Bakhmut to suppress the rebellion together with the soldiers under his command. The Russian general Nikolai Gumilyov arranged a conversation with the Russian soldiers as soon as he entered the headquarters. The general, who personally dealt with the problems of the Russian soldiers who decided to lay down their weapons, promised that the basic needs of all soldiers would be provided without interruption. The Russian general, who stated that the number of soldiers stationed at the headquarters will be increased and bonus payments will be paid, managed to calm the Russian soldiers with his speech. After a motivational speech stating that the power in the region will be restored and they will win the war, he left the region and took action to return to Russia. At this time, the general, who set off unaware of everything, could not even guess that a major operation was waiting. As a result of receiving intelligence information that General Nikolai Gumilyov was coming to the Russian headquarters in Bakhmut, he mobilized the Russian Freedom Legion. After the general entered the headquarters, the Russian Freedom Legion, which had prepared an ambush on the road, began to wait for the general to leave the headquarters. Just at this time, The Russian general was about to leave the town with a convoy of 4 vehicles when he was faced with intense fire from soldiers of the Russian Legion of Freedom. The Russian Freedom Legion, which kept the Russian protection vehicles in the crossfire, never stopped shooting at the vehicles for minutes. The protection convoy, which was in the middle of the ring of fire, could not respond and could not even get out of the vehicles. With the cessation of fire, the commander of the Legion of Freedom, who conducted the operation, took Russian General Nikolai Gumilyov prisoner by removing him from the vehicle he was in. This operation, which caused great surprise on the world agenda, reached an even more interesting point with the recommendations of General Nikolai Gumilyov. The confessions of General Nikolai Gumilyov, obtained after hours of interrogation after being kidnapped by the Russian Legion of Freedom, shocked everyone. Things have become much more complicated after the Russian general admitted the location of a military airbase created on the territory of Ukraine. The Russian general, who said that the Russian army has recently built a secret military airport within the borders of Luhansk, noted that Russian warplanes will soon begin airstrikes on Ukrainian territory. The commander of the Russian Legion of Freedom contacted the Ukrainian authorities after learning the location of this military airport. A red alert was issued in Ukraine, and it was decided to hold a large meeting at the state summit. After intelligence work, the authorities who identified the Russian airport in the region confirmed this information to the General Staff. The chief of the Ukrainian General Staff, Valery Zaluzhny, decided to organize a large-scale operation against the Russian military airport. The Ukrainian Air Force was called to duty and the operation button was pressed. The Ukrainian Army has decided to use the HIMARS missiles it received from the United States. Activating the HIMARS located in the city of Kramatorsk, it fired missiles by entering the coordinates for an airstrike against the Russian airport located in the Luhansk region. The missiles fired reached the target within minutes, but 2 missiles detected by the air defense system installed in the region were neutralized in the air, while 5 missiles were still continuing to advance. The missiles hitting the Su-25s at the secret airbase caused an incredibly large explosion. After this explosion, the fuel and ammunition depots were also hit, and everything turned into a place of fire. Seconds later, there was nothing left that could be used at the destroyed airbase. The impact of the large explosion caused 11 Russian soldiers to be seriously injured. Putin, who has been trying to build this military base in secret for months, lashed out of anger. While these events were reflected in the world press, the Russian economy suffered millions of dollars of damage due to a single operation organized by the Ukrainian army. The fact that the Russian army lost many advantages due to successive coups caused a public uprising in Russia and harsh rhetoric from opponents decrying Putin. The statements of war analysts caused a huge reaction in Russia. According to war analysts, Russia. In the last days of the Ukrainian war, the Russian army entered into a rather troubled process. However, the assistance and support to the Ukrainian army from countries around the world had caused a complete change in the balance of the war. The Russian army, which had lost control of many regions in the war zones against the Ukrainian army, had begun to withdraw. They made statements stating that after the advantageous progress of the Russian army at the beginning of the war, the power given to the Ukrainian army made the Russian army unable to take steps thanks to its successful operations in the war zone and blocked shipments.